Alrighty, what is up, fish homies? Finally getting down to making that boilie video. Today I'm gonna show you how to make boilies from scratch using like flours and stuff like that. Pretty much all the stuff you can get at your local grocery store or on Amazon.com. I'm pretty sure I got everything here from Amazon.com. So I didn't even have to leave my house. A lot of the other tools I show in other videos, but we have a rolling table here. I think it's like the small Gardner one, and it's 12 mil. Got that from Big Heart Tackle. This is the cheaper sausage gun, just to show you that it still works good. You don't have to spend the money on the nice one, but it really is worth it. Then you need yourself a little mixing bowl, a little fork, something to get the boilies out of the boiling water, a little spoon for scooping the flour, and something to measure your liquids with. From there, we will begin. So first thing I want to explain is when you are making a new base mix, it's easiest to start with a 100-gram mix. So you can do everything in percent wise. So if you add 10 grams of semolina, it's 10%. So when you do go up to your 4-egg mix or your 400 gram or 500 gram mix, however you want to do it, all you have to do is simple multiplication. If you want to make a 4 times bigger batch, instead of using 10 grams, you'll use 40 grams. And it's that simple. So today we're gonna make the cocoa nuts boilies. I call them cocoa nuts because they're super nuts, they're good. And you use coconut flour, so bada bing bada boom. And you use almond meal, so nuts, cocoa and nuts and cocoa nuts. You know how I like to get clever. I'm also gonna show you like it's not a super crazy mix, but it's kind of like a medium mix. It's not like a beginner mix really. Well, yeah, it's basically a beginner mix, but there's way easier ways to do it. You can basically just use semolina and soy flour or corn flour and semolina, 50-50 mix. Put your flavor in there and you will be good to go. You just have to figure out how much liquid to put in there. I think about 50 mils, but we'll go over that later. This mix uses here 6 different kinds of flours, and then it uses eggs and different kinds of flavorings. And most of this stuff you don't have to add in. I'm just gonna make a big batch right now because I need it, and people have been asking for a boilie making video, so I'm gonna show you guys myself doing it. The first thing you wanna remember is to write everything down. It sounds stupid, but it's easy to forget this, and you wanna, it's easy to forget your recipes, and you wanna make them as consistent as possible. The first thing I see a lot of people, how they make their mixes, is they make their liquid mix first and then they slowly add in the dry mix. I don't really like doing it like that because it's inconsistent every time. If you think about it, sometimes you're using a little more dry mix, sometimes you're using a little more liquid. And this way, if you measure it all out into percents or by grams, it's a lot easier to figure out, and it's a lot easier to make bigger batches or smaller batches, and it's 100% consistent every time. So you know if your boilies work good one day, they're gonna work just as good the next day. One other tool I forgot that you will need is a scale that reads in grams, because that just makes everything a lot easier. We're gonna go to our recipe and see what's first. So we have 10 grams soya flour, so I'm gonna times that by 4 because I wanna do a little bigger mix. So I'm gonna do 40 grams soya flour, but it's basically 10% of the mix. All right, so we got our 40 grams soya, that's 10% down. Next, we're gonna need 40 grams of semolina. That's the next 10%. So far, we have 10% semolina, 10% soya, and then we have 20% corn flour. So we're gonna bring this up to 160. All right, so that is what we're gonna call our binder. So what that is gonna hold the boilie together basically, and along with the egg. So we're gonna have 10% soya, 10% semolina, and 20% corn flour. So that's gonna give us our 40% binder, and that's something good to go by. Usually have about 40% binder. It's gonna be pretty good boilie. Next up, we have the almond meal. And that we do 25 grams. So we're gonna times that by 4 and do 100 grams almond meal. So that's gonna be 25% of our base mix. Alright, so we got the almond meal in there now, and that was 25% almond meal. So we're at, I think, 65% now. And next up, we have the coconut flour, and this gives everything a really good smell, so it's a good one to put in any mix. And we also need to add 25% coconut flour. So that in this mix, it is going to be another 100 grams. So that's gonna bring us up to 360. We got our coconut flour in there. Last but not least is just something I add for a little boost. I don't really know if it works or makes a difference. I haven't made it without this, but I don't really think you need to add this in. I've just heard so many good things about tiger nut flour that I gotta add it in. And this I only do in 10%. So I'm only gonna add 40 grams of this. This I also got on Amazon, the tiger nut flour. All right, so now we have all our dry ingredients mixed in. Time for the next step. And like I said, I'm doing a 400 gram mix here, but I started off with the 100 gram mix. I played around a lot with all these different flours and tried to get a boilie that smelled good, looked good, and just like gave off some, it was like a little water soluble, gave off some chemicals and scents in the water. But anyways, next step we have is to mix our dry ingredients. So mixing your dry ingredients is fine with just a fork, honestly, especially when you're making it this small, right? But the pros at making boilies and the big name boilie makers, the guys on the forums and stuff, they all say to put it in bags and then blow up the bag and shake it. So I'm gonna show you what that's like. Got myself a nice big plastic bag here. All I'm gonna do is empty out my mix. So I got my mix emptied into the bag here. Blow a little air into it, twist it off, and give it a nice shake. They say this is the best way to make sure all your ingredients are thoroughly mixed. And when you really think about it, you're adding some smaller parts and some larger parts. So we only added 10% tiger nut flour. It would suck if like 10 boilies got most of that tiger nut flour and then the rest pretty much got none. Giving it this nice shake up, ensures that everything is gonna be nice and mixed for you. All right, so we got it all mixed up. Got all the dry ingredients mixed up at least. The next step is to add our liquids. The liquids is something else I do a bit differently than most people. What I do is mix my egg mix and then add the like flavors and metaminos or whatever you want to add in there up separately. So what I'll do is make this egg mix right now and then show you what I'm talking about. One more tool that you can get if you know you're gonna be into boilies and making them and you're gonna be wanting to make large batches at a time, because you can make huge batches of this and then just freeze it. Like you can make it all day if you want and then freeze it into little session packs or whatever you want to do, and then you're good to go from there. One thing I've seen online and that I wanted to step my game up and get, because I hate mixing eggs, is one of these handheld mixers or emulsifiers. I forget what it's called. It's a stainless steel blending arm. I got this on Amazon. I have no clue how much it costs. If you use one of those handheld blenders, there's like a little foam at the top. And a lot of people do sieve that out. They use like a little strainer to get the foam and the chunky parts out. But honestly, for right now, I really don't care that much. Maybe if I get all the way down to the bottom and start sucking up that foam, I'll get it out of there. But I think I have enough egg, and now I'm gonna mix it in. And like I was saying, I don't put my liquid mixes, like my flavorings and my additives, into my egg mix. I put it in separate. I'm gonna use just plain old vanilla, and you can get a vanilla extract at your store, at any store, honestly. I'm gonna put a little bit of that in, and it's gonna help the flavor and the smell a little bit. And I'm gonna add some metaminos, which I think it says it's supposed to be scentless, but it does have a nice little like syrupy kind of smell to it too. So I'm gonna add a little bit of that. I only put 2 mils per 100 gram of vanilla, and we'll see what the other thing says. Let's get it going here. Alright, so I'm gonna use 8 mil of the vanilla extract, which is 4 times my original amount from the 100 gram mix, but now I'm doing a 400 gram mix, so usually I would do 2. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna put this metamino additive from Mainline Baits in there too as well, and I usually put this on the outside of the boilies as well, but let's see here. So it says for a 500 gram mix, use 10 mil. So we'll use like 8 mil of this as well. So we'll just do 8 and 8. And this is the vanilla extract. I got this from my local grocery store, so not hard to find at all. First things first, we'll do that one. I know the cap usually holds 2 mil, so that gives us pretty much exactly 8 mil, a teeny tiny bit more, but that's all right. Basically 8.5 mil is not that big of a difference from 8. One other thing I forgot to mention is to make a little hole or a little well in your base mix that you can spray your liquid mix into. Just a little hole in the center of your dry mix is all you need. I'm just gonna go ahead and fill it up to the 20 mil. And I'm gonna do 200 mil of liquid. Sorry the camera keeps going in and out of focus. I don't know what's going on here. So there you can kind of see the foamy stuff I was talking about. All you need to do is just wipe that off with a little napkin or whatever you have handy. So next thing I'm gonna do is suck the rest of it full of air, and I'm gonna mix it up because that egg will emulsify the extract, which basically I think just means blend it in. It helps mix the extract into the rest of everything. So you can see the egg mix is turning brown. That's our first 20 mils. Which is only gonna be 1/10 of what we do need. Next, we are going to get the metamino part in there. That is going to be 8 mils as well. Yep, and just exactly at 8 mil. Didn't even spill a drop this time. This stuff does kind of have a weird, strongish scent though. So I do like to wipe off the top of the bottle before I put it back. This metamino additive from Mainline, by the way, it's a liquid liver with high amino and vitamin content, a superb feeding inducing agent which can be used in any type of bait. Being very water soluble, it will aid attraction in all temperatures. Metamino can be used on its own or mixed with a Profile Plus, Activate, or Response flavors. Use at a rate of 10 to 20 mils per 500 grams. There goes the camera again. So basically, like it says, it's a liquid liver. It's going to give your bait a little feed inducing property and gonna make the fish hungrier and wanna eat more and more of your baits. It's also full of good vitamins and all that. So once they get a taste, they're gonna want more and more and they're gonna keep coming back. So we are gonna do the same thing that we did with the vanilla. We're gonna get 20 more mils of, or we're filling it to 20. So we're getting 12 mils of egg and 8 mils of the metamino mix. Mix up this with our egg mix, and that will be 40 mils. Then we'll just have 160 more to add. Another thing you can get is a mixer, but I don't have one and I didn't want to spend the money on it. So next best bet is to use a metal fork. We're just gonna go ahead and mix this up and get it into a dough. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of people do this way differently. And I don't have anything against it. I just like making my boilies consistent. I don't know how you feel about that. Let me know in the comments below. I do my dry mix first and then add my wet liquid, my liquid mix all at once, and that's gonna give me consistent boilies. Sometimes you have to add 1 or 2 mil of liquid, but you just write that down and the next time you know, bada bing, bada boom, you got it. So basically, I just squish it all around. So a lot of times it will go into like one ball when you start mixing it, but with this mix, I think it's a little drier. It doesn't really go into one ball right away. So I usually just mix it and try and get as much of the dry powder as I can wet and clumped up. So now I'll start to mix it up with my hands. That's one thing you can't really avoid. I know some people use gloves. I don't use gloves. I don't think the fish really know if your scent gets in here, but let me know below if you've noticed a difference about that. So what you're doing is just kneading it like a regular dough. Alright, so here's the progress so far. Got our dough ball, nothing's in there. That's about one of the ways you're gonna know if your dough is really good. If it stops sticking to your hands. A lot of the times it will just stick like to your hands like crazy if it's not ready. That means you added too much liquid. So next time maybe drop it down 5 mils, or if it's really wet, maybe 10 mils and see what happens. Or if it's too dry, it won't stick together into a clump like this, and you know that you have to add a little more liquid egg. You just want to go ahead and knead it for a minute or two, make sure everything's mixed in all nice, and then you can basically leave it for about 5 minutes. You don't want it to dry out too much. You can maybe leave it in a plastic bag, or just leave it for a couple minutes and it will stiffen up. And you can roll it out like I'm doing and fold it into itself to help try and get rid of those air bubbles that are in the dough. I think I'm gonna have to break this into 2 sections here. So I'm gonna get a little bag. I'm gonna throw the piece of dough that I'm not using yet into a bag and seal it up so it doesn't dry out. Because if you let it get too dry, it's gonna be really hard to push through the sausage gun. This mix is a little weird, I'm going to admit. It doesn't stick together the best. I probably should use a little more binder, maybe a little more egg or something. But it rolls good, boilies. So, I like it. You'll figure out like a lot of different things roll a lot of different ways. So next tool we're gonna need is our handy dandy sausage gun. And you can always hand roll this stuff out by yourself. You don't need a gun, you don't need a rolling table, you don't need to make them circle. This is all just commercial stuff. I mean, making them circle helps them cast further, and you can throw it out of the stick, the throwing stick, a lot better when they're round, obviously. First thing you're gonna wanna do is plug up the end and squeeze your mix in there. Let the air out, and you'll see it coming out. That means you are primed and ready to roll. Some people stick it on the table as well and give it a little squeeze to make sure that all the air is out of there. And this is the point where you want to like fill up your pot and start boiling the water. So I'm gonna get that ready too before I forget. So I got my handy dandy little Coleman camping stove here. I don't know how well you can see it, but gonna get that water boiling up now. You can see with the extra dough, I already rolled a fatty boilie. All right, so this is the rolling table. You can see there's a top and a bottom, and you put them to, you shoot a sausage in here and you roll it out and it goes into a boilie. I've showed it in other videos, so I'm not gonna show it that much now. I'm gonna get my sausages squirted out here. All right, that's a good start. So now we are going to lay our sausage across our table. It helps if these are like sturdy and they're not gonna slide around. And you just put a little pressure, roll it a few times. It takes a little practice, but you'll start getting them. You can see they're coming out pretty decent. I don't know if you can see the plate there, but I'll give you a view of that in a second. This is also my first time taking this mix from the 100-gram mix to the a bigger 400-gram mix. Sometimes when you do that, you do have to make little changes here and there. I'm gonna spray out some more sausages and try and get this finished. But you can see I'm not even halfway done. and I almost have a full plate full. We're gonna make about like 8 times this much, so you will see. All right, so for these boilies, you're only gonna wanna boil them for a minute or a minute and a half at max. In my last video, I was doing them for like 2.5 minutes, I think, but I think those were pop-ups. Anyways, I've been boiling them too long this whole time, so now I just do it for a minute, and then you can see they'll start to float, and you get them out and get them going. All right, so let's get them in there. I do put the whole plate now too. So we put it in there, give it a little stir, get our timer going. All right, so the timer just went off. We got paper towels on our plate. Now we're gonna get them out of there. So you can see behind me, we have a little bit of a mess, but it's not too bad for the amount of boilies that you get. Let me show you what we got so far. So these are the plates of boilies we got. You can see they're bigger than my hand. We got 3 big plates full. I like to start them drying on a napkin on a plate, and then I'll move them outside on a tray once all the water's pretty much dripped off and stuff. And I'll also give them a little shake and stuff so that the water doesn't settle at the bottom on all those boilies. And one thing I forgot to mention is you don't need to change the water or anything when you're boiling them. Just leave it in there. You can see how milky it is. All that good stuff is just gonna re-soak back into the boilies. If you change the water, they're gonna lose a lot of flavor that they don't need to lose. One thing I kind of forgot to mention is that you don't have to use vanilla extract. I mean, I might have mentioned it, but I just wanna make a clear point. You don't have to use the vanilla extract or the metaminos. You can use anything you want for the flavoring. Just don't put too much. Because if you put like 10 mils in there of a flavor, it's gonna be overpowering and the carp aren't gonna like it. They're not gonna wanna come back for more. Unless you're making like a floral pop-up or something where you want high attraction, you wanna follow the directions on the bottle or whatever it comes in. But yeah, I started off using mainline based flavors like pineapple, strawberry, chocolate, all those kinds. So if you wanna do that, you can go that route. And they do smell a little bit better, honestly, when you use those concentrated bait flavors, and it's probably better. But I wanted to make this video to show you guys how to make boilies with stuff at home, and boilies that are gonna work. Usually outside this, I would use a different flavor possibly, and I would add the sweetener too. You just put like 2 drops in there of the sweetener, and it gives it a little rounder flavor. But what I would suggest if you're just starting is to go to Big Carp Taco or wherever and go check out the Mainline Baits Active Aids. They're pretty legit. I have the strawberry one, and it's just a flavor additive that you can put in there all by itself. I'm pretty sure you don't need a sweetener, you don't need anything else. It's kind of like a flavor that's boosted with other stuff too, I think. But anyways, I started off using that, and I suggest you do too. Not the strawberry flavor. Well, you can if you want, but any flavor you want. Next thing I want to show you guys that you might think is kind of funny is that my kitchen, or my parents' kitchen, is under construction. So I have to wash all my dishes in the old bathtub. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to take a shower. Then I'll show you what the boilies look like when they're all dried out. Well, not completely dried out, but dried out for a few hours. And bada bing, bada boom. You do this yourself, you'll have a bunch of boilies, and you can get to fishing all summer. Alright, boys and girls, let's go see what them boilies look like. You'll be able to see up close that coconut flour has little pieces in it, so it looks like they'll be coated in white stuff. That's not mold, that's coconut flour. And it's really nice because it kind of like flakes off in the water when the boilies are down there. So here we go. You can see a couple of them are cracked, like this one right here. It's cracked, but that's okay. You don't have to use those ones for hook baits. Just mush them up and put them in your pack bait, or just throw them out there as freebies. And that's perfect. Most of them look good. Look at that. Perfect little boilie. Get a little up close of them so you can see that white. And you can see there's some misshapen ones and some giant ones. I made the giant ones for hook baits and the misshapen ones for freebies. So those are those boilies. You can see that. I don't know how many that is, like 500 or 1,000 or something, but that's only using a couple bucks worth of material. I mean, the initial investment will be a little more money because you're buying like packs, like a pound or two of flour at once, but you're not gonna use it all. And if you do, you're obviously gonna get like 10 times that amount. So you're probably only using like $5 maybe worth of ingredients. And once you buy them in bulk, they last you forever. I've had those little packs of flour for like 2 months. I made a bunch of boilies out of them. So now you know how to make boilies. And like I said, experiment with this. You can start off with the semolina and corn flour 50-50 mix and go from there. But you can pretty much find all kinds of flour on the internet. I mean, there's cricket powder, there's all kinds of almond meals and all kinds of meals from different nuts. You can grind up bird food, you can use fish meals, fish oils, all different kinds of stuff. I'll probably be making these boilie videos more often if you guys like them. That's just a basic mix to get you started. Sorry, my dog's barking, hang on. Alright, so yeah, I don't even remember what I was saying. My dog started going crazy because the mailman got here. But anyways, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know if you want me to make more. Let me know if you have any suggestions too. They didn't roll out perfectly, but they rolled out like 90% perfect. I mean, I'll take that any day. Only a few cracked, and that's probably what happens at the factories anyways. I'm sure they don't get 100% perfect little balls every time, but they get close, I know that. But yeah, so if you want perfect balls too, go out and get yourself a little rolling table. They're not that pricey, and a little sausage gun, or you can just do it by hand like I did at the end there. I don't think I showed it, but you could see how there's some big boilies and some different shaped ones. Anyways, peace out, fish homies. Let me know how you like it. Let me know what you want to see next. Summer's coming up, spring is here, so the fishing is gonna get better. Peace.